So in today's fanfiction, we're going to cover the new possibility of what if Anakin went to Mandalore with Ahsoka instead of to the battle over Coruscant with Obi-Wan, leading us to the ending we all know in Revenge of the Sith. There are two different outcomes to this story, and one of them will be chosen, whereas the other one will be saved for another video. As we know, Maul's plan was to kill the Chosen One out of spite for Sidious, to ruin his plans. This obviously would have caused so many things to change in the galaxy, but then on the other hand, if Anakin had killed Maul, this would have changed a lot as well. As Anakin sat in the ship that took him to the battle over Coruscant with Obi-Wan, just after leaving Ahsoka, he couldn't keep focused. He felt something was out of place. He furrowed his brow and looked to Obi-Wan. "Don't, Anakin. We have a job to do. I must go, Master. The Force is calling me." "Anakin, we have a mission to save the Chancellor and bring an end to this war once we capture Grievous." "Master, you don't need me. You and the clones will do just fine." As the two argue, Anakin tells him to not wait up, and that he'll meet him as soon as he's done. The Jedi Council will bring another member to the surface of Coruscant to help Kenobi and take Anakin's place, and the clones in this fight. Now this will also have its own butterfly effect, but we can discuss that later. Anakin hops into a smaller speeder and flies back towards Mandalore. As he would enter the atmosphere, he'd head straight for the clones in Ahsoka's armor. As he lands, he'd learn she'd left already to find Maul, where he learns from Rex, who is just leaving, that she's in the throne room. Anakin runs in, and our story begins. Maul will be so happy. His plan was about to come to fruition. This was about to put an end to Sidious's prized new apprentice. He was about to destroy Sidious's decade-long work. The two would eventually exchange words to eventually ignite their sabers, where Maul would be fighting Ahsoka and Anakin at the same time. Now, to make this fight a little more interesting, he would thrust a boulder into Ahsoka, knocking her out. Something like what Dooku did to Obi-Wan on the Invisible Hand ship, just to get her out of the way. "Ahsoka!" yelled Anakin. "You're going to pay, Maul. This time I'll make sure you're dead." Maul chuckled to himself as the war waged on outside the shattered windows. "What's so funny?"
"He will be so displeased. A decade of his work for nothing."
"What are you talking about?"
"Since you fell into the hands of the one I killed all those years ago, you have been part of a larger plan."
"The Jedi didn't..."
"No, not the Jedi, stupid boy. Your new master will know soon enough."
Anakin and Maul fight to the death. Let's take the first option here, where Anakin is killed. And that's where this story's gonna go. The next one will cover Anakin killing Maul, which will have its own series of events. Maul just proves to be too fast for him, and once he hits him with his cybernetic legs, he performs the same finishing kill on Annie as he did to Qui-gon. It's over. Ahsoka wakes up to find a dead Anakin and a fleeing Maul who gets away. Sidious would be crushed. His future apprentice would be dead, and he'd feel it through the Force. Obi-Wan loses to Dooku again, but this time they would send Mace Windu to the fight, who was at the Jedi Temple already, as we saw. Now, something you don't know from the book Shatterpoint, which takes place between episodes 2 and 3, Windu always blamed himself for not killing Dooku at the Genosian arena. He didn't kill him because he couldn't bring himself to killing an old friend whom he respected so much. As you know, or maybe don't know, Dooku used to be a very, very highly respected Jedi Master. He left the temple because of just differing ideologies, and he felt the Jedi just didn't really respect the Force anymore. They were just more so into politics and doing their bidding. Windu had nightmares over the decision and knew that he could have changed things if only he had the gall to have gone through with it. Windu would, this time, stop Dooku. It would be a very difficult fight, as in the fight with Anakin and Dooku was ordered by Sidious to merely toy with Anakin, because Palpatine wanted to keep him, obviously, and turn him to the dark side. He basically told Dooku before they showed up, and I'd love to make a video on this as well later in the future, that he wants Dooku to just toy with Anakin, to see if he's really worthy of becoming a Sith. And if in some miraculous event that he actually bests Dooku or gets the upper hand in some sort of way, Palpatine will stop it, in which of course he didn't, and ordered Anakin to beat him, or kill him, I should say. Now, Windu would eventually use his Vapod lightsaber form and turn the dark side back onto Dooku, thus defeating him, and this time, actually arresting him in front of the Chancellor. Now, of course, this would foil everything Palpatine had come to plan and design, and of course he couldn't let this happen. Palps wouldn't let Dooku go in front of the Senate, of course. He would have him killed with a Camino dart or something sinister, maybe poisoning his water or something like that, as a very stealthy way of just eliminating any sort of problem that could arise, and foil his plan. Because of course, Dooku would most likely spill the beans. Knowing Palpatine, he always had someone on the inside to count on. Dooku would die in his holding cell before his trial, and the whole time he'd be promised that Sidious would free him, but which we know that won't happen. Dooku dies, Anakin dies, and Sidious is left with no one but Maul. He goes to find Maul and the two fight. He knows that Maul is displeased with him for leaving him to die and finding a new apprentice, but he also knows that the Zabrak is like a trained dog. He will only answer to power, and that's what must be done here. So Sidious beats him in a duel, which, like we saw before with Maul and his brother Savage versus Sidious, only this time Sidious makes quick work of him and uses Force Lightning to make him obedient. This would be a replay of how he acted when Sidious shocked him on Mandalore. Maul would once again become Sidious's apprentice, that is, until a new prospect would arise. And this is where we can kind of go two different ways. The first one could be Palpatine executing Order 66, but of course it would be such a gray area. It would just be rough to do that because he would have to have the Jedi think that he's a Sith Lord, and then they would come to arrest him, which in the book, actually, he turns off all the security footage, but he just records his voice, and he records himself saying, "Oh no, please, don't kill me," and then shuts that off, and then all of a sudden starts attacking them. So before he does the Force Scream, he's calculating how he's going to make this look in front of the Senate, and he's recording his voice as he's very afraid, and then as if it got destroyed or something, like the table got destroyed or something, which housed the recording device. But the other way that I want to take this story actually is with Padme. The children of Padme Amidala. She would have Anakin's children, of course, but she would have to lie and say it was from someone that she was in a relationship with behind the scenes. Obviously not a Jedi. She could make up a story there and say that he died in battle or something. And of course, Palpatine, being a literal massive brain that he is, would know who the children are, and he would spend the next 20 years coaxing them to the dark side. His plan would still come to fruition, albeit it was now delayed just another 20 years. Luke and Leia would grow up to become the apprentice to Sidious in his old age, and bringing about the return of the Sith. Now, the only foil to this plan would be if Padme confides in Obi-Wan in private and tells him that the children are Anakin's. I mean, he always had a suspicion anyways that they were together, so. In this case, we can then say that Obi-Wan would most likely try to secretly train them or something like that, or have them tested for some sort of Force power, to which of course they would have that, and then they would be put into the Jedi Temple. But then, it would be the same thing with Palpatine all over again. He would just kind of coax them and be their uncle, or I guess grandfather in this case. "I knew your father very well, my young Luke." Palpatine would figure out that they had Force sensitivity, and of course he'd put two and two together knowing that these are really Anakin's kids. And it would pretty much be the same thing all over again. There'd be a lull in the galaxy for probably maybe 20 years or so, and then all of a sudden, it would just start all over again, Order 66. Or at that point he just wouldn't even care and he would just go crazy and unleash Luke and Leia on everybody. And himself. There's many different angles we could take this story, but I think the best one is to have Luke and Leia growing up in the Jedi Temple, eventually, and then being coaxed in the dark side, just like Sidious did with Anakin, maybe even planting some nightmares and dreams in their heads too. Albeit it would be much more difficult at this point because they would have been put into the Jedi Temple so early. Now, the other problem with that is that Padme probably wouldn't want them to be Jedi at all. She'd be like, you know what, this is not the life that I want them to have. They're going to go into politics or something else. So we could really continue the story on many different angles, but I feel like this would have such a different butterfly effect that could make so many outcomes come to light here. Let me know which one you like in the comments the most, and the next video about this will be Anakin defeating Maul and killing him for good. I hope you enjoyed this fan fiction of what if Maul killed Anakin, and in the next one, we're going to take the other route, so I hope you stay tuned for that. Let me know in the comments what you thought of everything. Catch you guys later. Until then, remember, the Force will be with you, always.